Okay.
きっと私帰ってくるからね。幸子、不思議な気持ちだけど、あなたがこうして味方でいてくれると心強いよ。
I must admit, I'm perfectly fine with having a second opening. You know, it's the perfect separation of all the things that just happened. Sachiko looked at me with sweet, innocent eyes. Ah. That probably explains the reason why. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Screw the recording. Was the entrance to the ever after?
先に涅槃が。動的魔法？魔女みたいに空を飛ぶの？嘘だ。
I closed my eyes, clasped the Book of Shadows tightly in both hands, and prayed.
ブックオブシャドウズ、力を貸して。
When I opened my eyes again and looked up into the sky, my body began to float. I was in control of the Book of Shadows. I was a legitimate practitioner of magic now. This moment felt almost like an awakening to endless new possibilities.
これ本当に飛んでる。すごい。
You know, it's kind of like when Ayumi removed the book from her stomach. At the same time, the hard drive floated up into the sky and disappeared from our universe. So as far as we know, guys, my hard drive is dead. Or it's a more modern day with the Book of Shadows. Can you imagine all the things on that hard drive? All the, I don't know, incantations of Twitch streaming? And right next to me, flying by my side, were videos from horror Japanese movies.
Ayumi.
Okay, I'm just messing with you. What the? I mean, you gotta admit though, you look like that girl from The Ring. No, she had longer hair, and she was taller. But you're cuter, so don't worry about that. And she couldn't float. Maybe she could. I don't know. The momentary loss of focus dropped me out of my trance, and I immediately began following. Probably all these tangents. That's probably the reason why. I gripped the book even tighter and concentrated harder than before. And sure enough, I began rising up toward the vortex once more.
Ayumi, 気をつけて。あなたが力を使えるのはその本のおかげ。絶対離しちゃダメ。わかった。
Okay, so it's kind of like a upwards flotation device. As I flew higher, I could see Marguerite sitting on the roof of the school.
ブックオブシャドウスを従えたようね。見直したわ、篠崎あゆみ。それにしても、如月学園の真上に涅槃へのエスカレーターがあるなんてね。ついでにもう一つ教えてやるとね、涅槃がこの世界に侵食してつながってしまったのは別にあなただけのせいじゃない。涅槃天神症がこの世に発生してしまった時点で、いいえ、もっと以前にブックオブシャドウズが生み出されてしまった時に、いつかこの時が来ることは決まっていた。
I looked into Marguerite's face. She was being completely sincere.
その本の元の所有者も篠崎義恵もみんなそれを食い止めようと、あるいは遅らせようと必死だったの。それが次世代へつなぐだけの運命であってもね。そうやって代々受け継いできたのよ。そうだったの。だから言ってみれば、あなたがいようといまいといずれこうなったわ。ただあなたの行為はあの狂信者集団ヤゴウラ教会の生き残りミストに涅槃のパワーを与えてしまった。その責任は取らなきゃいけないわ。責任。あなたには本物のブックオブシャドウズがある。天神症で分散していた涅槃の力はミストの持つ偽物に取り込まれてしまった。でもそれを取り戻してその本に封印すれば、あんなもの簡単に吹っ飛ばせるわ。
I'm not sure how much I can trust you, but it's nice to have someone sincere. I think.
そして涅槃のコアをも迎え入れられたなら、その本は完璧なものとなる。さあ反撃よ。食らわしてやりなさい。世界が終わる前に一発ぐらい本物の実力ってやつをね。私は見ているわ。
Marguerite grew smaller as I climbed higher and higher, and as I looked up, I could see the threshold looming even larger, poised as if to wrap itself around me.
あゆみ、怖い？死ぬの怖い？怖いかな。
I smiled at her, and to my surprise, it was a genuine smile. Somehow or another, I was feeling very calm. Sachiko looked at me with wide eyes.
どうしたの？
She turned away briefly, then looked over at me once more. It almost seemed like in that brief moment, she changed expressions, in much the way someone would change a suit.
あゆみ、怖いのはサチと涅槃のコアにいる人。気をつけて。涅槃のコアにいる人？それはミストじゃなくて。うん、別にいる。
Someone else? I looked back up to find myself practically right on top of the hole in the sky that stood in front of me. Oh boy, that stood in front of the abnormally huge red moon. What does it remind me of? Reminds me of, The harsh flash, the nausea, and the wrenching tightness in my chest caused me to lose consciousness for a second. But then, I awoke to find that heaven and earth had switched places. It looked as though I were falling headfirst into a massive storm, with flashing lightning and roaring thunder. It almost seemed like I was previewing what the world would look like after destruction. In the sky, there was an enormous face of a doll, and the walls around me were all made of flesh.
New data!
I clenched the Book of Shadows with both hands as I slowly made my landing in this new version of the Nirvana. It was a mountain of rubble. Can we float in this Nirvana? Because I would appreciate it. Can you imagine how many times I stepped on something that hurt me on the floor? If I can float above everything, that's just perfect, you know? Never mind. Of course. I slowly, carefully found my footing and pulled myself back up to my feet. This was an entirely different heavenly host. It bore almost no resemblance whatsoever to any version of the school we traversed previously. Yes, Aiko matters. I'm glad! See? She didn't forget. All I could hear was the rumbling and twisting of the air around me. Oh. Well, this does look different. And luckily, you brought a flashlight. Cool. Wait, what? Okay, I see Aiko's dead body. I see Kuon, who could be alive. I mean, Aiko could be alive too. Just happens to have no head. In the midst of the wreckage, pieces of clothing from Kishinuma, Mochida, Nakashima, Miss Kuon, and Aiko were clearly visible. I see more than the clothing, dude. And the unfortunate souls who were wearing this clothing were all buried under fallen beams and other debris, and surrounded by a veritable sea of blood. Well, we see their bodies. Does that mean they're actually dead? I knelt down and began sobbing uncontrollably. Wait, sorry, can you pronounce his name again? No, seriously. What? I don't have to say Sue? I don't have to say Sue? Misto. Okay, thank God. All right, I can say his name now. Oh, thank you. I mean, I'm sorry.
歩み
I'm sorry for your loss. But Sachiko's happy too.
幸子頑張ってみる。天神小学校の運命だったらちょっとなら戻せるかもしれない。
I thought you guys were joking. Because Sachiko produced, what? Oh, wow, you look incredibly cute. Minus the fact that there's like, blood vessels behind you, but yeah, that's cute. The skeletal figure on the chain made a slight hollow clinking sound, as it was handled very much as actual bone would. It looked handmade and seemed oddly warm, like a keepsake.
それは
I had this weird feeling that I'd seen this object somewhere before.
どこかで見たことあるような。思い出せない。
Though she, though she was looking down the ground a bit, slightly guilty and slightly guarded, Sachiko giggled slightly.
これ幸子の宝物。
A big smile crept across her lips, and for a moment, she looked every bit the part of an ordinary little girl. I was confused. Sachiko placed her hand on the Book of Shadows. What? And the book spoke.
同じ日を繰り返せ。
If this is what I think it is, I'm just gonna take a quick drink of this alcohol to my right. Alright, go ahead. Followed by Sachiko. Suddenly, I was in Yoshiya Shinozaki's clinic. The very same clinic Nakashima and I had visited on that fateful day.
この人はよしえさん。
Except this time there's no techno. Or dubstep. I was viewing Sachiko's memory of an event from long ago. Yoshie was writing something in her journal.
アナグラムの解析を進めると、この本に書かれている術はすべて実体の伴わない理論でしかなかった。成功例に関する文献も全く存在しない。私はなんと愚かなことをしてしまったのだろう。最初から成功しないものに心血を注いでいたなんて。
So, for the future archive, and for my reference if I ever look at this back again, today is 10/21/2015. Back to the future.
本の中身である涅槃が飛び出し、異空間を作ってしまうだけの失敗作の術。しかもそこに囚われた死者は生きていた証、存在の痕跡すらも消されてしまう。
Sachiko came into the room from the back. Her eyes met with Yoshie's, and she smiled.
だが、飛び出した涅槃を抑え込むことができたため、
Sachiko stood obediently by her mother, wearing the white dress we'd seen her on the blah 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 blah. Yoshie patted her on the head, approvingly. What? Sachiko then coughed out a fine black mist, but sucked it back into her mouth like a carp.
失われ、黒く消えたあの人の存在だけは取り戻せたのだ。
Okay. What? The face on the image was blacked out, like those of Seiko and others. However, to my surprise, the black marking was slowly peeling itself, revealing the features underneath. So, Sachiko, that photo we just saw, what'd you think of it? Oh. Man, that's pretty mean. What the? My vision slowly cleared, and when it did, amidst all the rumbling and shaking, I found myself back in Heavenly Host Elementary. Really?
これは
I'm not even gonna narrate this. Just gonna pour myself another glass. Another glass. Actually, I didn't realize that. You're right. Sachiko was real. She had to have been. Or I wouldn't have been able to hold her like this. She seemed injured, but not in any traditional manner. There were cracks running through her body, each one emanating an unearthly blue, almost gaseous light. Meanwhile, the school itself was also cracking and breaking all around me, making an incredible noise. The roof above began to crumble away, providing glimpses of the real world. And incredibly, the entity walls hadn't spawned there yet.
戻ってる。まだみんなが死ぬ前だわ。幸子、しっかりして。あゆみ、ごめん。幸子、あんまり時間戻せなかった。幸子、ありがとう。偉いね。頑張ったね。
I could hardly believe it. I just complimented Sachiko, of all people, on a job well done. Her newly formed physical body was rapidly beginning to evaporate into mist. My voice was trembling, though. I suspect it was less with fear and more of confusion. She looked up into the sky, eyes beginning to well with tears. She was struggling to speak. Soon, she wouldn't be able to at all. She barely had any voice left, but was persevering nonetheless. There was clearly something she didn't want to leave unsaid, no matter what. And with that, she began full on crying. I couldn't help doing the same. The tears were streaming down my face now. Sachiko's voice was so mournful, so genuine. A massive earthquake shook the ground. Sachiko looked scared, so I patted her head and hugged her tightly. She then looked me squarely in the eye, gripping her calavera necklace tightly in her hand, as if it were a rosary. Technically, if we went back in time, you're not just saving the people who died in the previous chapter. You're saving everyone in the world before Nirvana merges with with the real world. So, if you can forgive her for that, then I guess I can understand. Sachiko and the blue light alike both disappeared completely. She was gone. The being I was hugging just moments ago no longer existed. All I could do was clench my fists and mourn. The look on Sachiko's face when she asked if I was scared of dying kept flashing through my head. I kept my head hung low for a moment, and stood up and wiped the tears from my eyes. Accompanying the sound of rumbling, one single entity wall now stood in the real world. The cycle was beginning anew.